Welcome back to the Unstuck movement. These are true testimonies of breakthrough. I am your host, Rob Z. Today, we have the incredible Dean Graves with us on the podcast, and we're talking about the curriculum of consciousness today. And I love to start things off with a big question, a powerful question to get things rolling. And, you know, in life, there's tons of stressors. We all know this. We all deal with stress in different areas of our life. And we hear so often how bad stress is for us, and lots of people go to great lengths to avoid stress in their life. So, Dean, I wanted to open this up with a question for you of how can stress be a great teacher in our life for personal growth?
Well, thank you for having me, Rob. I'm delighted to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and your audience. I will answer your question with a question. What do you perceive stress to be?
What do I perceive stress to be? There's different kinds of stress. Like there's stress on the physical body, mental stress, emotional stress, but it's something that maybe I would define it as like a signal that something is asked of you. Something might be uncomfortable, or something might be pushing you outside of your comfort zone. I'll go with that answer.
Okay, well, let's unpack that a little bit. The things that we usually identify as stress, the body sensations, the reactions, the mental anguish that oftentimes stress causes, are all the product of stress. You've already experienced the stress when you're reacting to it with those conditions. Stress, very simply, is the difference between our expectations, how we think things should be, and how things really are. And because it is uncomfortable, as you referenced in your description, it is giving us a message about something that we need to become aware of, that we have incorporated into our perception of self, that is being challenged. And it is something that we need to heal. And until we become aware of what that is and heal it, it's going to perpetuate our experience of stress and eventually suffering, because suffering is nothing more than the repetition of that experience of the same stress. And so every experience that we have in the course of our lifetime that we don't like, that doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel comfortable, is something that is a message to us about ourselves that we need to become aware of and learn, let go of, change ourselves accordingly. Now, we go through long periods of our life, and how long that we go through these periods of experiencing intense stress is entirely up to us. The more quickly that we become aware of ourselves and undertake with awareness and with commitment, undertake the healing process, we will continue to perpetuate that stress. Now, how that plays into being unstuck is an interesting phenomena, because we become stuck when we continue to receive these messages through the experience of stress, but we continue to conduct the same behavior that was perpetuating the stress. We are, by nature, obligated from the moment that we are born to begin to create what is called an identity, or a hierophant, or an ego. It's all the same thing, exactly the same thing, just different phrases, different words. And we create this ego, this hierophant, this identity, for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to get more of what we like. In other words, if I create this ego, I create this hierophant based upon my experiences, then I am promoting that false perception of self for the sole purpose of tricking the world into giving me more of what I like.
Mm.
Now, what we like varies obviously as we mature over the course of a lifetime, and it also is based upon the nature of the experiences that we have. But that notwithstanding, the purpose of it is to get us more of what we like. No one wakes up in the morning with a commitment. I'm going to go out and get more of what I don't like today. That's what I really want to do. I'm going to get more of what I don't like. Everybody has that, whether aware or unawarely guiding us, that motivation to get more of what we like.
Mm-hmm.
So, stress being the um, um, contrarian to our identity is actually giving us a message about what it is that we have incorporated into this false identity, this hierophant, that is not getting us more of what we like. So if we pay attention to it, then ideally we learn to invert the awareness that we are using to measure and monitor the world around us, and eventually to try to control the world around us to give us more of what we like. When we learn to invert that awareness and become aware of how we are reacting to our life experiences, because we're attracting those experiences, we're magnetic. So if we're stuck, it's because we have not done the work to heal ourselves from these false beliefs, false perceptions of self that we originally incorporated either knowingly or by osmosis to trick the world into giving us more of what we like. The entire process of consciousness evolution, which is synonymous with the enlightenment process, is the process of creating this false identity, this hierophant, in order to learn what we don't like.
Mm.
And in order to know what we do like, we have to know what we don't like first, so that we'll know what we do like when we actually encounter it. People learn by the process of analogy. We learn by comparison and contrast. So if you decided that chocolate ice cream is your favorite flavor of ice cream, and when you go into the ice cream store, you're going to go stand in from that bin that says chocolate on it until you get your chocolate ice cream, that there are, say, 149 other flavors there that are all ice cream, but your favorite is chocolate. In order to make that awareness, that deduction, you've had to try a good number of those other flavors of ice cream to make that deductive process that chocolate's for me. Chocolate is the one that I want. We do the same thing through the course of our experiences. We experience a lot of stuff that we don't like in order to eliminate that from the ultimate goal of learning what we do like and deciding that that is what is going to motivate us to work, to function within our incarnational experience and so forth.
Good answer. Okay. I like it. This is a good start. This is a good launch point. Thank you, Dean, for that.
Sure.
So before we go any further, because I have a plethora of questions coming off of that answer, this is the Unstuck movement, right? This platform was created to help you find breakthrough in your life and or your business, because I believe professional and personal life blend together in every facet. So my goal in this podcast is to have conversations that help you find a breakthrough for yourself. Everybody that comes on this podcast has had a major breakthrough in their life and has made something that was a mess for them a message that they can serve other people with. We're sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy. Check out connectedleadersacademy.com, an incredible community of over 400 entrepreneurs, heart-centered leaders from all over the world. And also, I want to encourage everybody who's listening right now, if you want to be the go-to authority in your field, the expert at what you do, have a lasting impact on people's lives, and you want to create a platform that brings amazing people to you to grow deep connections with, check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Join the wait list at robzwentz.com. Dean Graves with us today is a seasoned spiritual teacher, author, and podcaster with over 20 years of experience in mindfulness and self-healing practices. Through workshops and group sessions, Dean empowers individuals to achieve greater self-awareness and enlightenment. I want to ask you, for yourself personally, how did the old Dean handle stress? And practically, how do you handle stress now?
Well, the old dean did it the way that most everybody does it until they realize that it's not working and not bringing me greater happiness. I mean, my motivations were conventional. I was uh, focused on business and building a business and making more money and things of that nature. And I was moderately successful at that until I got to a point and I realized that, just doing another project or another deal or whatever it was, it got me more money, but it didn't get me more happiness. And so consequently, that's called an awakening. That's all an awakening is. It is nothing mysterious about it. It is just that point in your life, and this can occur when you're 20, or it can occur when you're 50, like it did with me. And the older you are, the more you have beat your head against the wall before you consented to the awareness that it's not making you happier. And then you are tasked with looking around to see what alternatives are there that might bring you greater happiness. And um, invariably, what is required of everyone is to become aware. And that awakening is an awareness, but it's an empty awareness. In other words, there's no information to fill the void of, gee, I'm going to get up tomorrow morning and do another deal. And so you have to gather additional information, which is always available, as to what alternatives there are. And while we are promoting this hierophant, this false identity, our awareness, which we all have, we are born with it, we can't do without it. That awareness is pointed outside of us. In other words, I have to monitor your reactions to my hierophant, my identity, in order to make adjustments to try to trick you more effectively in giving me more of what I like. That's awareness that is doing that, but it's directional, it's pointed outside of us.
Mm-hmm.
When we have this awakening, it is necessary to learn to invert that awareness, same tool, invert it inwardly in order to become aware of what it is that we have incorporated into our perception of self, our beingness, that is causing us unhappiness, that is causing this perpetual stress. And as we do that, then we develop the tool that we all have in order to begin to heal from our false perceptions of self, surrender those, and allow more of our authentic self, which is always there, to emerge. The authentic self is already what we seek. In other words, if you perceive that your authentic self is the gold, and you've buried the gold in the ground and you piled a bunch of trash on top of it, the objective is still to experience the gold, but in order to do that, you got to get rid of the trash,
Mm-hmm.
and then dig the gold out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so the self-discovery process begins of removing the trash, which is all these beliefs that we've incorporated into this false identity, and then to expose the gold by digging it out of the dirt, which we have piled on top of our authentic self.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm curious. You said this awakening happened whenever you were in your 50s, and that's a at any point coming to the awareness and deciding to make a change is painful, right? The change is
It's scary.
painful.
It's not necessarily painful, but it is scary because this hierophant is who we think we are.
Yeah, well,
We
and painful, I
perceive that.
mean emotionally painful, right? It's like, oh, I have to, I can't be the way that I am. I have to do something about this. And I'm sure leading up to your awareness and until you finally decided to make the change, you've had this inclination for a long time, but things were working, like you said. And I think about this all the time for people who may have had like objective success in life, but they still feel that brokenness, right? So we're all broken in some sort of way, and understanding like me trying to fill this hole with this thing has worked for a little while, it's not working anymore. And the longer you delay that realization and doing something about it, the bigger that stress becomes, the more difficult it becomes. So what was it like for you in your 50s to make this huge adjustment? And what was it like for the world around you, your family, your friends, the people you worked with? All those dynamics start to shift as you start to shift. What was that
Sure.
experience like for you?
Yeah. Well, it was fearful, and because this hierophant is who we think we are, and we've built our relationships predicated upon that perception of self. And so, as you begin to change, as you begin to allow more of your authentic self to emerge and heal from these false perceptions of self, those relationships that were perpetuating the stress because they became part of that stress and that perception of self begin to fall away, and new relationships come in to fill that void that will resonate more completely with your healing perception of self.
How long of a journey was this for you? I'm curious in this process, like in your 50s of going through this, because and it is interesting, right? As you start to change and as you start to grow, people, it's like you think you have to cut off your circles or whatever. People naturally grow away and people
Yeah.
naturally are attracted to you. And it's very, very interesting to see that happen to you in your life. Um, how did you navigate that practically, like on a daily basis? What were you doing to elicit this change and also to deal with the change?
Meditating. Yeah, meditation is the best tool. Um, there are more techniques that you can use in order to expedite the inversion of that awareness, but they're transitory in comparison to meditation. Meditation will continue to take you deeper and deeper and deeper in your self exploration.
On a daily basis, right? Moment by moment, because the thing that I come to a lot through meditation and prayer from me, that's me in my space doing what I do alone with God, and we hang out and spend time together. But on a day-to-day basis, moment by moment, you can get caught off guard, right? Boom, split second, something happens, you're thrown off. How do you carry that awareness with you throughout the day?
Well, there you go. That's the task. That's it. When you get thrown off, that's that message. That's that stress. That's that um, little reminder that you haven't finished doing your work yet and surrendering that false perception of self.
How do you do it in the moment, though? And I love to talk practical stuff because I want, like, somebody can hear this and be like, I understand what he's saying, but right now I'm freaking out. What do I do right now when I'm freaking out?
Understand that we exist simultaneously in both the metaphysical world and the physical world. We are experiencing an incarnation right now, which if you think think about being on a sports team, and the sports team, whatever the sport is, you practice all week long. You watch game films at the last game, you get coaching, you get um, instruction, what to do in the next game. And then the next game comes around and you're fired up with all that you've learned in this past week, and you're going to do so much better. You're going to incarnate, and you're going to have a wonderful lifetime. And then part of the requirement is that you forget all of that stuff that you practiced all week long. And you begin again, but you begin at the condition of progression that you have made up to that point.
Mm.
And so we live a lifetime, and we learn what we can from a lifetime. We try to employ those things that we learned from our training, our coaching, and our metaphysical self. But our metaphysical self is always there to participate in our decision making, even while we are incarnate. And so when we meditate, when we um, pray, as you say, we're surrendering that veil, that wall between our metaphysical self and our incarnate self. And we are paying attention to our more um, esoteric but ephemeral self that has a much clearer view of what we need to be doing than our incarnate self. This hierophant that we create actually creates a mind. It creates an ego mind. As long as we dwell solely within that ego mind, then we perpetuate our stress. And understand that this ego that we create, this hierophant, can be divided into three major sections. While we are infants and small children, we are very immature and we seek immediate gratification from our experiences. I want ice cream now. I want this now. As we mature and as we develop, and it actually is a reflection of how we have progressed along the consciousness scale, we migrate more into the middle section. We still fluctuate between this immediate gratification section and this middle section, which is our social section. Our social section begins, and this is a process. If you imagine that we have progressed to a medium level on this scale, but we oscillate above and below this scale. Okay, so while we remain low in our consciousness advancement, we oscillate greatly. We have our oscillation it deviates greatly from this median level. But as we mature, then the oscillation gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So while we are immature, we're in this immediate gratification stage. As we progress in our healing, then we move into the social stage, but we still trek into the temporarily into the immediate gratification. But the more we heal, the more that we progress, we move through this social stage. And as we reach the pinnacles of the social stage, then we demonstrate behavior like ethics, like morality, those things that we so value in other people that we see, living that. And that's not a matter of training. That's not a matter of good schooling. That's a matter of progressing in their evolutionary healing into that stage where it's just they wouldn't consider not being ethical or not consider being integrous or moral. It's just not. It's not possible as they do that in their progression, and then beyond that point, still the same range of consciousness, we enter into what I call the basic stage and begin to surrender those erroneous perceptions of self that we deem to be so basic. For example, we perceive ourselves as to be male or female. We perceive ourselves to be a white male or a black male or a red male or whatever. And those too are erroneous. And as you progress through that process and begin to surrender even those most basic beliefs of who we think we are, then we truly get in touch with and allow our authentic self to emerge. And that's when we enter that stage of mindfulness. And we enter that stage as a condition of being, not as a thought process. It's because we are identifying, while we remain incarnate, with that absolute authentic perception of self. And so these momentary challenges or those stresses that we experience while we are in the less matured stage no longer appear to us because we are not attracting them. We attract the experiences that we have. And so consequently, as we change and we heal, we no longer are the magnet for those types of experiences.
Yeah. We no longer even see them as options. That perception's gone. So this is really interesting because most people, I'd love to know percentage wise of humans on Earth throughout history, how many have shed off these erroneous or false perceptions of themselves? It's a pretty low percentage, right? Of people who become aware of these things and then actually, let alone becoming aware of them is one thing, but then taking the actual practice and time to shutting them off is a whole nother thing altogether, right? And this is a lifelong process. This is the journey of life school. So We're going to take a quick break here. When we jump back in, though, I want to talk about people who hear this and they're like, well, that sounds nice. I'd like to be able to do that, but I got kids, I got a job, my life's crazy, I got, bills, all the things that bog us down in life. Where do we start? Where do we begin? And I'm curious, when you had this awakening, where did you begin? We'll talk about that when we come back. Are you struggling to make consistent, valuable content for yourself? Do you want to have an efficient and effective way to create content that attracts the people that you want to connect with in life, the people you want to build relationships with in business? Do you want to be the go-to authority at what you do, at what you're great at? Would it be helpful for you if you had a platform that connects you to incredible people in your industry? The kind of platform that gets you leads and lands you clients without you having to beat down anybody's door or blow up anybody's inbox. Whether you're already creating content or you're desiring to start and it's something that's been kind of burning inside of you for a while, I urge you and encourage you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Get started right now. Join the waitlist at robzwentz.com.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world globally. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line. And of course, grow your circle and your network like never before. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JASCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So, Dean, I'm curious, going back to your beginning of this journey, and I want to help people who are starting on this journey. Where do we start to shed these false perceptions? Where did you start?
Well, I started where everybody starts. We begin the process running away from the stick. In other words, we've had this awareness that I'm not getting happier. All the stuff that I've been doing, I may be successful, but I'm not getting happier. And that is the measure of how we are doing. Happiness is just that simple. And so you start looking around and learning to invert this awareness. And you realize that all this stuff you've been doing is beating you over the head. So we start running away from the stick. I tell my meditation students, everybody comes to meditation running away from the stick until you get a bite of the apple. And everybody gets a bite of the apple if they're persistent with the process. Now, you may understand, I was there myself. There are times in your life when it's very difficult to meditate because of family, because of work, and so forth. You got a bunch of kids running around and they're not understanding of your meditation time needs. But that notwithstanding, you have to allocate your time in order to do that, to allow yourself some opportunities for introspection, if not meditation, and to learn to develop that awareness inwardly focused to become aware of what it is in you that is causing you the perpetuation of stress. And when you learn to do that, and when you set your boundaries, even with family, then your relationships improve with family. Invariably, understand that both males and females create this hierophant. And in counseling married couples, without exception, there's no exception to this rule. Every time that a married couple is fighting, one or both of the parties have retreated into this hierophant, their perception of self, and understand that what got you two together in the first place was you felt comfortable enough with each other's hierophant that you identified with it. But not only that, you took it a step further and you felt comfortable enough with this other person to surrender that hierophant when in their presence. So you were being your authentic self and they were being their authentic self, and we call that love. But our perception is that we're getting love or we're giving love. Love is not a commodity. It's not something that you get, and it's not something that you give. It is something that you are. So this other person that you have determined that you love and that they determined that they love you feels comfortable enough with you and vice versa that you're willing to surrender this hierophant and you feel the love that you already are. Now, when couples have difficulties, it's because one or both of you, usually the male, because they're out in the world conquering the world, have retreated into that hierophant and no longer allowing that reciprocity of comfort with each other to feel the love that they are. Hmm. When you have children, particularly small children, small children are very sensitive to that. And when dad comes home and he's still in that hierophant mood, that conquer the world mood, I'm big dog, the kids feel that and they'll give him a few minutes to get out of it. But if he doesn't get out of it in a hurry, then they're gone. They don't want anything to do with that guy. That's not who their dad is. So you only, to develop a relationship with your children, you have one alternative, and that is to be your authentic self. No matter what that is, to be your authentic self. If you perpetuate that need to be in that hierophant, then your kids don't like that. They're not going to they're going to be sensitive to that. Every time that you have a fight with your spouse, it's because instead of leaving that hierophant on the front doorstep and coming in as your authentic self, you brought that hierophant into the house with you. Mm-hmm. And being male, she's going to say, take that back outside and you come back in as your authentic self and we'll be fine. So when you don't do that, that you have that conflict. When you both are compelled to retreat into the hierophant, and that's called divorce.
When you're talking about hierophant and using that word, I've heard that word used before. I always understood it as standing for, and then I looked this up, because I was like, hierophant, I know I've heard that. And so it's used in context of like righteousness, sacredness, and one of the definitions of it is a priest in ancient Greece. How do you use the word differently than how it's used in those?
Yeah, it's a false self. It's a false perception of self. A priest in ancient Greece was a false perception of self. It's a false identity. It's the ego.
Oh, okay.
It's nothing more than accumulation of beliefs that we have either agreed to take on, or we've gotten through osmosis of parents, family, friends, whatever, over the years, that we've accepted social distortions. Racism is a belief that we get by osmosis from the environment that we're raised in. And if we examine it, it makes absolutely no sense. So why would we keep that as part of our identity, part of our false perception of self?
Yeah.
These are the things that perpetuate our experience of stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to let everybody know also, as we're closing in on the end of this episode, you have an amazing book out, The Enigma of Consciousness. They can check that out and purchase it and find out more about you at your website, ddeangraves.com. What can you tell us about The Enigma of Consciousness and how that book relates to what we're talking about today?
Well, it goes into great detail in explaining our role and relationship. The rest of the title of that is The Enigma of Consciousness, a spiritual exploration of humanity's relationship to creation. So it explains not only the hierophant, we function according to an archetypical mind, and part of the archetypical mind is a blueprint for how we process thought. And part of that process requires us to create this hierophant. So we will experience what we don't like, and we are required to awaken from that and surrender that process of having created that hierophant to further expose our authentic self, which is always there. And it goes into great detail about that. And it's gives you a perspective of who you really are and what you're really doing here. Our purpose is the same. There is nobody that has a different purpose. Our purpose is to explore ourselves. Our mission is unique. Our mission is to learn what we like and do what we like, because when we do what we like, then we become proficient at that. And we become proficient at it, we enjoy that, and that provides us with the experiences that we need in order to fulfill our purpose.
I'm curious for yourself, because I think one of the most authentic things when we perceive somebody, when people laugh at something or they find something humorous, it reveals like an authentic part of them, right?
Mhm.
What are the things that make you laugh? Like, what do you really enjoy? What lights you up? What's something that just kind of sparks you?
Well, I'm by nature a smartass, and so I enjoy life's little trivialities that people get so upset about, and when you step back and look at it and said that makes no sense, that's silly. They're just perpetuating their stress.
Yeah.
And usually it's in an environment that I can make light of it if I'm a participant in that experience, and help them see the ludicrousness of their own stress-provoking interpretations of the experience.
Yeah, the funniest things in life are the most absurd, right? The things that are absurd that we take so seriously, and when you can step away from the seriousness and enjoy those things for the comedic relief that they are, man, life gets so much easier. And something that at one point in time in your life may have been so offensive to you or so grating to you becomes something you can belly laugh at. You've made some great progress there.
Sure. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all
Yeah.
small stuff.
Yeah. So stop sweating. Yeah,
That's right.
that's good. Well, thank you, Dean. This has been awesome. I love talking to you. I want to remind everybody, if you want to become the authority in your space and you want to launch your platform, go to robzwentz.com. Find Dean at ddeangraves.com. Anything you want to leave the
It's
audience?
.org. It's .org.
Oh, I had it wrong on there this whole time.
That's okay. It's
Oh,
.org.
all right. Well, I'm gonna change it right now on the fly for the final minute.
There you go.
ddeangraves.org. Thanks for correcting that. Sorry I didn't catch that sooner. Anything you want to share with the audience before we sign off today?
Love is joyful if you allow it to be so. And you will be joyful the more that you begin to surrender this false perception of self and be your authentic self.
I love it. Great message, Dean. Thank you for being a part of the Unstuck movement. Another true testimony of breakthrough. We'll catch you next time.